Good afternoon everybody and welcome to a glorious autumn day. We've got the sunshine out and we're going to be talking about a very interesting discussion today. I've already made a couple of videos talking about the fact that people are leaving the UK or leaving the Western world in hopes of finding cheaper places to live. We've discussed on this channel how this has kind of become a trend and I'm seeing these videos pop up every single day, and I know a lot of you guys are too. So I wanted to make another episode where we kind of speak about this. We want to speak about why people are leaving the UK, not necessarily the fact that people are, but the reasons that people give for wanting to leave, why this is important, and what this means for our futures, both as people and as a nation. So to understand why so many people are making videos about leaving and why they want to leave, we need to first discuss what people don't like about the UK. And of course this is going to vary from person to person, but after hearing lots of people in the comment section and obviously after looking for people and speaking to them about this in real life, I've had a number of answers. Some people just don't like the weather here, which is fair enough. Some days, some months, it's actually extremely cold. Take it like now, right? It's a lovely day, but the sun's setting and it's only 3 o'clock. Other people claim about taxes in the country, which I do agree are quite high. Other people say it's things like immigration that they don't like, and the general cost of living crisis. Now, it's not my job or intention in this video to explain whether either or any of these specific facts are important or not. You guys can decide what this means to you. But these are some of the biggest reasons that I see people giving. They don't like how much it costs to live in the country. They don't like the fact they're getting taxed to death. They don't approve of where the tax money is going. And again, things like the weather, I think that's something that's outside of the control of the country. It's always kind of been like this. Anyway, getting back onto the topic of what this means for all of these people who want to move out of the UK. Now, I spoke about this before. I spoke about the fact that I think some reasons are valid, but I think some of the other reasons that people give, they're failing to acknowledge a certain fact about life here. Now, I said it before and I'll say it again. The UK is not a perfect country. It has a lot of problems. Take, for example, earlier this year where people went rioting on the street saying that it was about immigration. Whether that's good or bad, I'm not here to discuss, but it is just an example of a turbulent time. Look at the prices of houses, look at the price of earnings towards houses and the comparison of how much you need to make. But here's my point about this. Whilst it is still a problemed country, there's two things that we need to understand. A lot of these people who make these videos about moving away, they have this idea in their head that life for them is going to be better. Now, I'm going to share what I think is a simple fact with you guys about leaving the UK. It's something that I think we all should do. Not necessarily as a permanent move, but something that we should try, if not just in the short term. It's going to broaden our horizons, and the fact of the matter is we may find out that we like a certain lifestyle more. In my last video, a lot of people said that me speaking about the UK still being an okay place is just cope, and the country is really on its knees. A lot of services are really in the gutter at the minute, and that's just a fact. I can agree with that. But at the same time, there is something that people are failing to acknowledge about this country. The thing is, it doesn't matter where you want to move to, every country has its problems, and I know that this is a blatant fact that everyone should be aware of, but with the way that people go off, I don't think they actually realise this. You can speak about the fact that you can't have a nice life in the UK, and perhaps living standards are in some ways decreasing, but at the same time, if you were to move, let's say, up north to Scotland, or even the north of England, some of the towns around Manchester, you can still find houses in those places for under 200,000, which is still extremely high, but at the same time, it is somewhat doable, especially on an average salary. And people say, well, I don't want to move halfway up the country. But these are the same people who are saying that they want to move halfway around the world. You see, I think more than being an actual trend of meaning, this concept of moving abroad is some extreme escapism. Because what a lot of people fail to acknowledge in this concept, like I say, is that they are going to face problems everywhere they go. A lot of these countries that are cheap are only cheap to people in the Western world, like the UK and the US, because you earn pounds or dollars, right? Because you have English-speaking skills. I don't disagree with the fact that everybody or anybody should move. I've made it blatantly obvious before that I would not hesitate to travel the world when I get the resources to do so. I would not hesitate to live in different countries. I think it is a really eye-opening experience. And like I say, this is one of these conversations which people go either way on. It's either the UK's great and you can't move anywhere else, or the UK's terrible, you need to leave straight away. The actual truth, like I've said before, is somewhere in the middle, and what a lot of you guys need to realise is, this concept is escapism, right? People who can move to places for better opportunities are going to need a decent income. And you might say, well, I make 25,000, that'd be a lot of money in Thailand. I don't know if it would or wouldn't, I'm just giving an example, right? Can you do that online? Like, can you really make that much money online now? Because you're still going to need to have some money coming in and substantial savings. And that's failing to acknowledge the cost of flights back home, visas, and all of these different costs. I'm not here to say that it's a bad idea. Like I say, I think it is definitely valid. But the people who I see making these videos the most, number one, they're people with very low incomes and very low skills. They're usually young people around my age. If you're watching for the first time, I'm 21 years old. So I see people in their 20s making these videos. And here's the fact of it, right? Here is the absolute fact of it. People in their 20s have a different perspective on the world, naturally, because of the times that we grew up in, because of the things that we experienced, and a lot of different factors. But one ostensible fact of it is this. These are the people who have the lowest stake in society. And all I mean by that is, they're the folks who have had the least time to build skills, build incomes, and all this other stuff. There are lots of jobs that you can get in the UK still, that you work only 40 hours, and I know that's an awful lot of time, but they can still pay you enough money to have a house and a car, right? Yes, a lot of minimum wage jobs do not, but at the same time, people need to adapt to the current skill set and the current market. That's just the fact of it. There's new markets and new jobs. You can make a significant amount of money working, especially around this time of year, right? You could just stack up a couple of thousand in a couple of months, working in warehouses, Christmas, you know, warehouses like the Royal Mail ones. And I could give loads of different jobs. I've seen these ones myself. But this is my point. I am not going to disagree, and I know that at this point, if this video does quite well, we're going to have lots of people in the comment section saying, you're wrong, you know, the UK is going downhill, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this, even if that is true, a lot of you guys are going to run into the same problems, if not worse, when you go halfway around the world. And why do I think that? What leads me to believe that? Well, number one, most of you guys don't have a solid income. And I don't mean working in an office, because, trust me, for a lot of you guys, if you move to Thailand, the Philippines, South America, and get another office job, there's a very, very high likelihood you'll be earning around the average salary in that country, which, yes, you may get better weather, you may get less crime, for example, but in terms of this living like a king concept, you won't be if you're living on their wages. So you need to have a solid online income. Number two is, do you guys have the skills to actually facilitate this move? This is why I've not moved yet. Or it's why I've not embarked on any massive travel missions, i.e. living somewhere for a couple of years at a time. Because I need to make sure everything's in place. Not only having the money, you need to have the ability to do all the documentation, cover all of the extra expenses, not just money, but perhaps human resources and other costs on your mental health and stuff like that you'll face. And really the list could go on and on. You see, this is the problem that a lot of you guys are not realising, and this is not an insult to any of you or anything like that, but a lot of you guys are not realising that the reason why you want to leave your country, the UK, the US, Europe, I know it's not a country, but countries in Europe, is because you're not ready to move necessarily, but you're after escapism. And the idea of living a cheap life somewhere around the world suits this idea very well. You see, the truth of it is, there are still a lot of parts in the country where you can make something good of yourself. I'm not saying it's not going to be different to what it was 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Of course it is. But this concept that you can't do it is not true. Now, if we're talking about other issues that people seem to think are serious, like taxes, or migration, or crime, these are a little bit different, because these are the more objective realities. But most of the people, or at least half of the people that I see, don't mention these facts. They mention the fact that you can't make it, and yeah, we are getting taxed unbelievably high. Maybe that is a very good reason to move, but a lot of you guys are planning step Z when you're not on step A, right? You're getting to the end of the mission, or you're coming to the end goal before you're even started. You need to have skills, income, potentially connections in your new place and your old place, so that you're safe in either. You need to have sorted out what this place feels like. Like, go for a month holiday to Dubai, go for a 3-month holiday to Thailand or the Philippines. You may love it, you may hate it, but a lot of people haven't even done this. And again, the idea of coming to the end step before you're at the first one, I'm not saying don't move. This is where a lot of people are going to go wrong, because they're not going to watch the video all the way till the end. But if you're watching till this point, you may understand that I'm saying you should still move if you want to. I think everyone should at least experience a bit of different cultures here and there, even if you want to stay in your same hometown for the rest of your life. But the fact of it is this: a lot of you guys are not moving necessarily for lifestyle inflation or lifestyle increases or quality of life increases. You're moving for the perception of that based on an escapist view. The truth is, if you still want to make it here in the UK, you can. Let's not lie, you can. Is it going to be different? Yeah. Is it going to be harder? Possibly. But can you still make it? Yes. Is it worth still making it here? Now that I cannot necessarily say for certain. For some of you guys, of course it is. For some of you guys, no, it's not. But whether it is or isn't, a lot of people want to leave the UK, but they're not ready to. And they make these big points, but usually, it's just like when I make these videos on things like dating, right? And I say to a lot of these guys, it's not that hard to get a girlfriend. This is another sort of content that I've been making on the channel, and they're like, yes it is. When have you last tried? It's the same sort of thing. People are quick to make content on why the UK's terrible, but have you actually tried living in these countries? And a lot of you guys who have made it successfully, who I've heard in the comment section, because I've been interacting with a lot of you guys over the past couple of months, you've had plans in place. This idea of just upping and leaving with no resources, no skills, no connections, no ideas, no safety nets, I think is a terrible one. Some may say it may push them to make it, and for the 1% that may be true. But a lot of you guys are lost in the UK, your country of birth, or the US, or wherever you're watching this from. A lot of you guys are lost in your native land. So how are you going to do better in a country which is perhaps more corrupt, perhaps more poor, perhaps more wealth unequal? I'm not going to give any specific countries for example, but you know, every country's going to have its problems. I'm not going to deny that at all. And yeah, you could still move there, but make sure you're in the right stage of your life when you've done so, or when you're thinking of doing so. A lot of you guys are jumping to the end goal, but you've not really tried too hard, and you don't have the means to move abroad. So if you want to move, make sure you've got something. Now, if you guys already have watched a few of the videos, you will know I teach people how to resell online. If you want to learn how to do that, the link is in my bio. But reselling online like I do, or other business ideas that you can do halfway around the world. YouTube is not location dependent. Like I say, the dropshipping business that I do, not location dependent. Perhaps teaching people online, not location dependent. If you get these skills up first, then start to think about where you'd even like to go, then get savings, it's a much more realistic plan than saying, well, I'm 18, life's not how it was when I was a kid. Well, of course it's not. There's been a lot of changes in the country, I won't say otherwise, but at the same time, like I say, these are people who've not really given adult life a true go. And this idea of, you know, you can't afford anything, well, the people who could in the past were still working 40 hours. The amount of young people I know that don't want to work 40 hours, that's fine. But you've got to take the consequences that come with that, right? If you want to do full-time jobs and invest in the right way, you still can make something of yourself here, so maybe you shouldn't leave. If you really think you should, you definitely should leave. But at the same time, just make sure you plan it out very well before you do so. I hope that was interesting, guys. Thank you for watching till this point, and I hope I'll see you soon. Goodbye.